What makes a star athlete snap in a second? And then to start stalking and following the person around everywhere they go, leaving notes, messaging them online, and soon to attempt murder. This once energetic teenager turned into someone that his parents couldn't even recognize anymore. And how did his life go from happy and succeeding to a literal nightmare where he dragged everybody down with him? We're gonna dive right in. This is Spencer Pearson, Unmasked. The Pearson family grew up mostly in Keller, Texas. Tanya and Doug Pearson had 4 children together: Colby, McKenna, and then Spencer. I'm going to leave his younger brother's name redacted. Living in Keller, they seemed to have the most perfect, happy family home life. All the kids were thriving. Spencer in particular was heavily involved in sports from a very young age. We now know through his parents that he started in tackle football at age 6 and had many times of getting hit hard in the head, almost to a possible concussion. But none of this changed anyone's demeanor. They were all still so happy and supportive of each other. And when it came to school, the kids all had pretty good grades and did the work when they needed to. Spencer enjoyed going to school and being able to play on the different sports teams for his schools. And the only thing that ever really came up about Spencer was from his 3rd grade teacher telling his parents that she notices that he has anxiety. And his older sister McKenna had said that he was really close with his parents and kind of leaned on them a lot, and this was probably due to his anxiety. The parents were pretty successful themselves. They brought in good money, and so they got to live in a nice neighborhood and a good house, and I think those things really benefited the kids. However, when Spencer would hit middle school, they decided that they were going to move to Florida for work. They ended up settling in Ponte Vedra, Florida. Spencer would start school at Landrum Middle School. It's hard to say if he started towards the end of the 7th grade or if it was just 8th grade that he was new, but no matter what, once he hit 8th grade, he was playing sports there, and mostly football still. Although he struggled with anxiety, I really think that him playing sports was a way for him to connect and have fun and actually reduce his anxiety, being around people that he liked, making new friends. I think it was super helpful. However, in some videos that we see, there are still signs of that anxiety popping through. Like, take this video. Watch only his upper body. Don't focus on the lower half yet, just the upper body and his facial expressions. Okay, now, after seeing how his upper body was and the different faces he was making, look at his legs in this. It just looks like he has a lot of pent-up nervous energy going on here, and it's coming out with his legs, and his upper body and lower body just do not match. Fast forward a few years, and Spencer was a senior at Ponte Vedra High School. That's kind of a tongue twister. And even with being a senior, having played all 4 years of football at high school, Spencer really struggled with wanting to fit in, but also a lot of self-doubt. It seems like he was pretty critical of himself and had very low self-esteem. But in October 2023, he began to date a girl named Madison Schemitz. Madison was an athletic star in her own right. She was extremely good at softball, and she played for the high school as well. By all accounts, both of their personalities seemed to be opposite of each other, where Spencer was kind of an introvert and Madison was definitely an extrovert. She had so many friends, loved to go do things with her friends, with her mom and siblings. I mean, she was just a busy girl, having a lot of fun, and really going places in her softball career. She was hoping to be able to play softball when she goes to college. So we know the couple would go to church together, but they also would go to each other's houses because both parents really like the partner at the time. And even Madison's mom said that she loved him. Even though Spencer had dated other girls briefly, this relationship with Madison was very different. He felt like their relationship gave him purpose, and it kind of counteracted some of the feelings that he would think about himself. However, it would eventually start weighing on the relationship a lot, being paranoid, worrying about cheating, and just being a little bit more controlling in that way. But his overall emotions constantly being weighted down on Madison, and she had finally just had enough of it. In April 2023, and only after 6 months of dating, she broke it off with Spencer. To say that Spencer was devastated would be a gross understatement. He fell into a very, very deep depression. But along with his depression, he began to act a little bit crazy. He would try to write her letters, and if he couldn't find her, he'd leave notes on her car often. If he saw her driving and he was driving, he literally would stop what he was doing and follow her all around. And it was starting to really scare her. She wasn't sure if he was capable of doing something dangerous, but the way he was acting like it seemed like he was an obsessive stalker. He tried to use his social media as a way to maybe get back in contact with her. He was tagging her friends in certain posts that he had and just trying to find all these different ways for Madison to notice him. One of the other things he did was he made fake accounts on these social media accounts because Madison had blocked him. I was able to find 2 other accounts that he was trying to use, but I also think he had ones that are not so connected to him, so it's not as obvious that it's him. She was growing more fearful every single day. And then on top of that, with Spencer going through all of his depression, he would write her saying that he was going to unalive himself, and he actually did follow through and try to do that. His parents got a text when they were downstairs and he was up in his room, and he just said, "I love you." And they went frantically up the stairs, got there. He had already started the process, but they were able to save him. It was after that that his parents had decided that he either needed to go into a place to get help because everything that they had been trying to do was not helping him. And they also, were trying to be like, there's so many fish in the sea. This relationship was only months long. Like, it'll be okay. But to Spencer, that was not okay. He only wanted that relationship, and he felt that it took away any of the positive attributes that he was slowly getting about himself. It was clear, though, how bad things really had gotten. He had lost so much weight. He couldn't really sleep, and when he did sleep, he ended up sleeping on the couch because what he had tried to do in his room, it just scared him and his parents so bad that he would sleep on the couch and was pretty miserable. On social media accounts, he did try to make it seem like everything was fine. He graduated that May and posted these photos and videos of his family celebrating. But what's really eerie about all this cheering and laughter and him seeming so happy is that this was 1 month away when he would try to take Madison's life. June 3rd, 2023 was like any other day for all the high schoolers getting out for summer vacation. Many friends were getting together and going shopping, going to the beach, playing sports, just having fun now that it was finally summertime. Madison was no different. Madison and one of her friends decided to go to the beach that day. And this is where the story takes a little bit of a twist, and you have to kind of puzzle together what you think the truth was and is, just like the jury in Spencer's trial had to do. So what we do know is after Madison and her friend left the beach, they each called their own moms who were friends with each other, and they invited their moms to go to dinner at Mr. Chubby's, which is just a local restaurant near them. At the same time all this is going on, Spencer had decided that he was going to leave his house, and he was not in a hurry according to his mom, but it also was a little bit alarming because he would not get up and leave. He wouldn't get off the couch. He wouldn't go hang out with friends. He wasn't doing anything. And so when she saw that he was in the truck heading away, she kind of flagged him down and then asked where he was going. And he said the beach. But then he never made it to the beach. He ended up going to Mr. Chubby's. And his defense team said that he had decided he was going to unalive himself at the beach. He was carrying a knife that his parents at some point had gifted him. We think it was before, it was probably a year or two ago from this incident. But he had that knife, and he had decided, according to his defense lawyers, that that's where he was going to be to end it all. But then he got in his truck, and instead of going to the beach like he just said he was, he ended up going to Mr. Chubby's. Now, his defense says he was going there for one last meal because he and his dad would go there and it was just a special spot, and so he wanted to eat there one more time. But I'm a little bit reserved on this because with how much he had been stalking Madison, he may have known she was at the beach. I don't know, maybe through social media or not, but it's very ironic that he was gonna go there. They left there and went to this restaurant, and then he just shows up and is there as well. They're sitting there and he comes in. They eventually notice him, and the mom and daughter decide they need to leave right away. So they actually got up and left the restaurant, and the friend and her mom went and paid while those two were leaving and going to their car. And that is when you see Spencer stand up and follow them through the front door. So I am going to play the surveillance footage for outside, but some of it's going to be blurred, or I may have to crop certain things out because it is extremely graphic. So you see Madison going around the side of the car to get to the front door she was going to be driving. And Spencer was there so fast, it's unbelievable. I mean, I guess he was extremely athletic, but it's scary how fast he was able to get to her in just a moment. He then proceeds to shove her down onto the ground, and with one arm holding her, he stabs her. And it was reported that she was stabbed somewhere between 15 and 17 times. Her mom came around the side of the car when this started and started trying to fight Spencer. She got hurt. And then another gentleman that was pulling up to Chubby's to eat lunch as well saw what was going on and hopped out of his truck and ran over there. His name was Kennedy Armstrong. He was able to stop the attack on the two women, and he had his hand sliced basically in half. But Spencer had then turned the knife onto himself, and Kennedy continued to fight to get the knife away from him. Spencer basically decapitated himself. It was so horrific. I don't know how Madison is still alive or how he's still alive. It was horrible. Thank God other diners ended up calling the police, and they got there shortly and were able to take everybody to the hospital, including Spencer. Kennedy was only 22 years old when he heroically went and saved Madison and her mom. This was his statement to the press soon after the attack occurred.
I pulled into the Chubby's parking lot with my buddy Jimmy, and as I parked my truck and opened up my door, we heard a scream, and I looked over, and down on the sidewalk, there was a guy on top of a girl, and looked like he was pounding down on her chest, either with or without a knife. I didn't know if it was a pistol or a knife at the time, and I just immediately took off running, left my truck door wide open, and just sprinted and hit the kid as hard as I could and knocked him off of her. And after I did that, the kid was on his back, made sure he wasn't going to be able to get back to her, and he then took the knife and stabbed himself in the neck a couple times.
It's not really much of a surprise, but Madison's entire family views Kennedy as family now. They could not be more grateful for him and everything that he chose to do, and only at 22 years old. He also received the Carnegie Medal, which is considered the highest civilian honor for heroism. Due to the extent of Madison's injuries, she actually became paralyzed. They were concerned that it would be a lifelong thing if she was able to survive her injuries, but they were hoping for the best, and as her body would start to heal, that hopefully the issues that were going on in her nerves would be okay. And although not fully recovered, she is not paralyzed, thank God. During the trial, they kept going on that Madison is a fighter, and she really is. Going back through her social media accounts, it was not even a month later, and she was talking about how she's going to be implementing a new type of club for her school that helps with other kids in relationships and violent relationships, and how to get support and how to be there for all these people, that if they think that they're struggling, that they can be there and help each other out. She moved so fast trying to make a difference in the horrific situation she found herself in, and it really is to be commended. As much as her family was rallying around her and being supportive, her entire community really gave up open arms to help and do whatever this family needed that would help Madison. I mean, police officers, doctors, nurses, firefighters. There's so many people in this community that really stepped up and really wanted to help make a difference for Madison's life, and also help the things that she now wanted to do to be able to help other people. Spencer's trial would soon come up just a couple weeks ago, and he had pled guilty to attempted murder. The defense went on about his mental illness and how it was affecting him and everyone, and how he perceived reality. And I do think that there's a massive component in some of these things that he was dealing with. His parents really did try to get him all the help and any help that they possibly could. They were afraid of losing him. They never would have dreamed he would actually attack and do something like this, but he had already tried to unalive himself once, and they were fighting for his life. It was kind of a toss-up as to what the judge would sentence him to. His defense was asking for 20 years in prison and then another 10 on probation and needing to check in. But the judge ended up giving him a sentence of life in prison. Part of me really understands that, because he could have easily killed the other 3 people and himself. And I mean, it was just so horrific, and they are all so lucky to be alive still. But it would have been horrible if his actions actually went through. But I think one of the most impactful moments when it came to the trial and talking about Spencer's situation and his family life is when the sentencing was being read. You can't see his mom, but you can hear her. I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
You are sentenced to serve the remainder of your life in prison. As to count 5, you are adjudicated guilty. You are sentenced to serve 30 years in Florida State Prison.
Just the extreme amount of pain and sadness that you can hear from her, it really got to me emotionally, being a mom and just putting myself in her shoes. At the end, when court was dismissed, the defense asked if they could approach and requested that his parents be able to hug him goodbye, but probably not be able to give him a hug again, or at least not for an extremely long time. And I think that this verdict, as bittersweet for some people, it was horrific for the parents. However, very justified for the 3 individuals who almost lost their life because of him. Spencer's team has a chance to appeal, and I would think that they're going to. He had just turned 18 shortly before this happened, so still young and dealing with mental issues, that I think they'll try to appeal it and then still push on the grounds of mental health, and that he's still so young and would like them to reconsider. As for Madison, she still has a very long road ahead of her for her physical and mental recovery. They have a GoFundMe account that I'm going to link in the description below for anybody who would like to contribute. Just medical bills alone, but this is going to be a lifelong mental thing for her and her mother. Just a horrifying event. And just like how Maddie has now introduced the One Love Club at her school to help with violence and relationships. She and her mom knew that this was a problem from the very beginning and that he wasn't acting normal. And they actually were in the process of trying to get a restraining order against him. And I think that they were making the steps in the right direction, but who would have known that it would have spiraled into that? And now I'm going to end my masked video with footage that I think is excellent to leave on. And that is, Madison had spent so long in the hospital and kept having the same thought of, I'm going to walk again one day. I'm going to do this and that. But one of her biggest goals was, when it's time for me to graduate, I will be walking and I will walk on stage and I will get my diploma. And she did. And the crowd gave her a standing ovation. She is strong and she is a fighter. And having her resilience going out there to help more people and make a difference is going to greatly benefit so many people.
Madison Victoria Schemitz.